So yeah, that's when I really became an alcoholic, knowing about therapy, knowing about my depression, being very aware of it, and just not wanting to change anything.
Most people say that emoting as a black man is not okay.
And that's part of the stigma that, I want to be a part of breaking.
I created. Thanks for sharing. It's a safe space for us to share ideas and triumphs. We uncover intersections that don't always make headlines. Let's take a journey together to discover what other black people find when we share on Thanks for Sharing.
I caught up with Michael Shipp, better known as Shipp. He's a recovering alcoholic who suffers from depression. While depression may not lead to alcoholism, it did for him. He talks about his voyage to find serenity.
The beginning of my depression actually started like before I went into the military. I was during that period, didn't know what I wanted to do. I think Facebook really became popular, but you had to have like a college email to even get on. And it started to transition where everybody could get on. So I would see everything everyone else was doing. And I always felt like I wasn't doing all those things. So I went to the doctor, and that was the first time I heard like about what depression was. It was just me questioning a lot of my life, things that I wanted to do, things that weren't going my way.
I know Shipp from a fitness running group. Although we never really hung out, I'd see him around at races and parties. When I saw his post about sobriety on Instagram, I was surprised to know he had a problem. He always seemed healthy. I didn't know he was drowning personally.
It really, started to hit me quite hard when my wife at the time, she went to Alaska. She went to Alaska for a year, and prior to her going to Alaska, we got married, and then about 6 to 8 months after that, she left. It was really difficult because she went to training for about 5, 6 months. That's when I would drink to like change my emotions or just ignore the things that were going on in my life. So yeah, that's when I really became an alcoholic, and my alcoholism took a much different turn and ruined a lot of relationships, a lot of really good relationships in the process. Knowing about therapy, knowing about my depression, and being very aware of it, and just not wanting to change anything. Until I started to feel like I didn't want to kill myself, but I didn't care if I lived. At that point, I needed something to do. I needed to make a change.
Why are you so vocal about mental health?
Growing up, like mental health is just not something that people talk about. Just trying to create that safe space for other people like me, whether they're black or not, or being a man or not, but especially for black men.
Most people say that emoting as a black man is not okay.
And that's part of the stigma that, I want to be a part of breaking. So when I reached my bottom is like questioning my actual life and not wanting to live. Not feeling like I was good enough in certain situations. Thinking that a drink would change that. A drink worked for such a long time until it stopped working. I remember I totaled 2 cars being driving drunk. In that situation, I actually went out with friends, picked a bar right around the corner so I wouldn't have to drive. And I walked to the bar, walked home. Apparently, if I walked home, I just remember taking like one last shot, and then I woke up in the back of a parked car.
The National Alliance on Mental Illness explains something called dual diagnosis. It's when someone experiences mental illness and a substance use disorder simultaneously, noting alcohol and drugs can worsen symptoms of mental illness.
Even though I've been through like all those things, like those weren't my bottom. Putting people through the things that I put them through, not wanting to do that anymore. Initially, it starts out, we're enjoying this, and then I don't need to enjoy. Find myself going to the store, don't even need to be out at a bar. I can just drink by myself, and then that's when the problems come in. And instead of like actually facing those problems, I'll find somebody else that wants to do the same thing. So,
yeah, for me, like I can drink alone, but I don't get drunk alone.
Pretty much black out when I was drinking, at least a good 70-80% of the time that I would drink.
I'm not trying to say it to shame you or to shame anyone else, but somebody gonna win. And hopefully it's a person and not the addiction.
Right.
And right now it's you.
Right now it's me.
It's you.
One blog on Talkspace a popular therapy app, explains, many men have not been told how to process and talk about their emotions and experiences, furthering the sense of isolation, anger, and resentment. Black men face a unique challenge in that most of what is prized about them may be their looks or bodies, but rarely ever their intellect or emotional intelligence. These things are often deemed too soft for any black man to experience, delivering the message that if you are those things, then you must change, and fast. As reported by Essence magazine, black men are more likely to have extended periods of unemployment, and long-term joblessness can be a precursor to depression. Exposure to violence, drugs, and other stressors lead to higher rates of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. So, what can we do? An Omega Psi Phi fraternity study through the National Institute of Health provides useful steps to help black men cope with depression.
I still have these things that I go through. Like, life's still going to happen. But the dope thing about the program is I have resources in place, whether it's working through the 12 steps.
Yeah, you talk about resources a lot.
So my resources are working in the programs of Alcoholics Anonymous. I haven't worked in the 12 steps, which is absolutely free. Therapy. And then another resource is actually treating my friends like my friends, and being able to use all those things that are in place and then going to my friends to do like friend shit. So like not having to say, friend,
like
I
now
need you
you
to be
don't
my
drink.
therapist.
I mean, like, what did you say? Hey guys, I hate to tell you this, but I'm no longer drinking anymore.
I didn't say I hate to tell them. Like, hey,
of course you don't hate to tell, but I hate to disappoint you.
No,
I guess it's like the
person with the problem is always the last person to know. So when I want to tell them like I'm not drinking, they're like, oh, finally, yeah, you did have a problem. So,
like you think you look cool,
yeah,
but you look a whole mess.
And then there are times where like I'm going out and being on the floor and looking like a complete idiot.
Yeah. How do you take care of yourself?
Make sure I'm honest. Help other people. Working out. I love to write. Photography is really dope. And then I do storytelling sometimes.
The medical and community support systems that Shipp uses are integral to keeping him on track. He's now more than a year sober from alcoholism and has a healthcare team who helps him maintain his health. Seeing stories like his could keep the next generation of men from sinking.